This is Huey Newton at San Luis Obispo, California prison. I'll tell you a little about my experience here with the prison officials. I've been locked in my cell now for a year and 9 months, approximately 21 hours a day. And the reason I'm locked up and treated differently than most prisoners who are out from 7 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night is because I refuse to program, as the prison administration calls it, and I call it for reasons of refusing to work without just compensation. A few of the jobs you receive from 2 to 10 cents an hour. And that's the top pay, 10 cents an hour after you've worked maybe about 5 years. So I refuse to go along with this, and this is what the program is all about.
But you made a specific demand.
Yes, I made a demand that either I be paid a minimum wage of at least $1.65 an hour, and not only me, but all the prisoners, or else I refuse to work. In other words, I boycotted the plant.
You also made some suggestion about room and board.
Yes, I made a proposal to the adult authority that I will be willing to pay about $1,500 a year or whatever it is if we were given a minimum wage. This proposal was rejected on the face as being ridiculous and unreasonable. And
where'd you get the figure 1,500?
Oh, this is just an arbitrary figure. I figure that $1,500 is more than enough to pay for what we get here.
For your accommodation.
Right. So we're at a stalemate now, and we've been for the last...
What did you make the proposal to?
I made the proposal to the adult authority by way of letter, and I have also made the proposal to the disciplinary committee, where I have to attend every month as reviewing my case. I go every month. I guess I've been 15, 16, 19 times or so. And I've asked them not to call me unless the other side could add something new to the talks. And they informed me that it was procedure and necessary for them to call me in for a review, even though they realized that we weren't getting anywhere.
How did the talks originally go?
The first few months, we at least communicated, and they would propose, and I would make a counter proposal, and they would reject my proposal, and I would reject theirs, and it would go like, well, I reject the other side's. It's very similar to the Paris peace talks, because that's the way I wanted it, and they saw the similarities. I guess that made them very angry. After about 6 or 7 months, we stopped communicating. I would go in, and they would read the charts, and I would get up and leave. And sometimes I would come in, and I would say that I refused their proposal, and other times that we would just exchange no's, you know. No, they won't accept mine, and no, I won't accept theirs. So we've gone through various interchanges on rejecting each other's proposal.
They used to ask you if you changed your mind,
and I would ask them if they've changed their mind. Yes, this happened for a number of months. Here lately, as I said, that nothing goes on because we don't talk to each other very much. There's no communication.
What are you going to do when you get out of here? Got some specific plan?
I'm going to operate differently than that prepared for me, though, because it's the way the whole party was run before. You realize before, when the party was organized, that I've made 2 speeches. It was like Fidel and the Sierra Maestra, who made no speeches all while the revolution was going on. I was thinking about that today. It's important for speeches and stuff. Someone else can do that. Some real planning has to be done. And I feel that with the movement in general, there's not enough planning. It's too much of an entertaining thing, you know. And I plan to first get this paper par, even though they're doing a very fine job, but I think it has to be made more of a community paper. We have to really get it going, and then I want to do some things as far as organizing a busing program for the parents of prisoners and relatives, because one of the big problems, prisoners are very lonely, and most of the prisoners are out of the way. The parents don't have them, relatives, wives, they don't have the money to come down here and to the various prisons. Some of the guys live in L.A., they're in prison in San Quentin. So I would like to organize a bus program. It would be a free bus program, so we could tell them where the bus is leaving from, and each week bus them to the various prisons. This way we can organize them too, because we get them all together and then start talking about having meetings, and so they can know what's going on in the prisons and put pressure when it's necessary. So those are the media things. Of course, I'm going to be very involved with Bobby Seale's case in New York 21, and Eldridge, getting Eldridge back. I kept hearing about this guy, Eldridge Cleaver, you know, and he was at the Black House, and we had formed a party then. Everyone's telling me, guys, you should talk to Eldridge Cleaver, you know. Well, where is he? You know, at the Black House. Well, I know it's, a cultural nationalist. So he went on. I didn't make any move, any effort, and then someone after through the conversation said that, well, he just got out of prison. And I got interested. Well, he can't be all bad. He just got out of prison, you see. So maybe I will talk to him, you see. But when they told me just with the Black House thing, I hadn't been to the Black House, but I knew I had heard about the parties there and the workshops. It was a cultural nationalist bit, and I had outgrown that. So then I thought that maybe I would try to get in contact with him because he just got out of prison. But I didn't make any effort, really. So then this guy named Jackman came by and with Bobby. And he said that I'm going to take you guys down to the radio station. Eldridge Cleaver's down there. And he was with another guy who just had gotten out of prison, so we were introduced. And at the radio on, Eldridge is rapping on a talk show. So I'm listening, and, you know, he's giving some history is what he's doing, and giving black history and showing treachery of the European and the American against the blacks historically and currently. And I started listening, and it's pretty interesting. But still, he was just giving history, so I still didn't know, you know, what did the history mean, you see. So I went down there, but the real reason I'm interested because they said he was out of prison. I got on a radio station, and I said, I'm going to recruit this guy because he's very articulate, we need him, you know, and he seems to like to talk to crowds. I don't, so we need more guys who need to do that. So I started blowing to him after he came out of the radio station. I told him about the 10-point program, how we were a socialist group and revolutionary socialists and blah, blah, blah. Ran the whole thing down, and he's going like this, yeah. Then he says, after I finished blowing, he says, well, I have an obligation to Betty Sabaz and the OAU that Malcolm was starting to form before he was cut off, you see. He never criticized or said, well, I don't agree with this part of the program or didn't disagree with anything I said. So I was for sure that he didn't understand where I was coming from because he didn't disagree with anything. And usually people can find some disagreement, you see. And then that would give me the occasion to go deeper into to justify our move. But he wouldn't do that. He just said, yeah. So I left him, and I told Bobby I wish we could get him, but we'd have to educate him because he doesn't understand. Else he wouldn't have just said, yeah, you see. I was over his pad and so forth, and I'm still rapping to him. I'm still trying to convert him because I was trying to give him the ideology, you see, because I was tired of the cultural nationalists, and I knew that he had potentials to be out of sight because he was a strong character, seemingly, and he had been in prison, so all the qualifications. He had been to graduate school. So finally, he still wouldn't talk. The Eldridge, we've never had a real conversation because he doesn't talk, you see, unless he's half speak or something. He didn't know, never. He just like that. Maybe because, 9 years in prison, you get very withdrawn. But finally, he gave me this manuscript, started looking through it, and I read this chapter on local, domestic, and international security. Because the local security was the police, the local police, the domestic security, or national security was the National Guard, and the international security was the regular army. And then he talks about the little gray men who were in the smoke-filled room, whom he calls the deciders. After the deciders decide, they tell their their soldiers what to do, local police, national police, and international police. Then he goes into telling how the local police carting off neighborhoods, blocks, communities, and then they come in and they search for that which is hidden. And then he goes with the National Guard and then talks about how the national military cartons off whole countries and goes in the caves and search and find that which is hidden. And he talks about how they won't stop until they drive you to your knees, you see. And then he talks about how they can bring about painful deaths. They have all sort of mechanisms like gas chambers, the gallows, guns, but he still talks about these deciders, but he said in order to deal with the deciders, you have to first deal with their strong-arm men. Which was the reason for the existence of the party, because that's what the party had concluded. That in order for any change to come about, you're going to have to deal with the strong-arm men, you see. You can't, yeah, right, either on a local level or on a national level, you see. Then after that, I suddenly discovered the reason that all he said was, yeah, not because he didn't understand, because he understood so much. So we didn't have to discuss it. So from then on, I didn't attempt to discuss anything. We just worked together, we worked on this paper for 3 days in the same little room, and I doubt if we would say 2 sentences to each other, you know. And but the paper would come out all right, you know. And that's the way it went. I had been sentenced to 18 days in the hole for a little altercation with a police officer. The police officer called me a son of a bitch, and I called him a motherfucker, and I went to the hole for it. So they asked me, did I feel good about calling the police officer a motherfucker, and I told them that I did. I felt better about it after he called me a son of a bitch. And they said, well, you went to the hole, do you like the hole? And I explained to them that I like the hole better than inside of the yard, because inside of the yard you're under constant surveillance. You're stopped going from one point, say from the dining room or to closing exchange, and you're stripped, you're searched some of the time. Your cell is constantly being searched when you're out, or sometimes when you're in, you're invited outside so they can go through your cell. This doesn't happen in the hole, because in the hole you're locked up all day, you eat inside of your cell, and they sort of forget you. So you didn't have that feeling of being constantly intimidated, constantly harassed, and you're even treated with more respect most of the time, at least I was, in the hole than outside. So I told them, yeah, I liked it much better. And they said, well, are you normal? That's not normal. And I told them that I didn't think that I was, that they're speaking from a statistical average, because I didn't think anyone was. I was an abstraction. What does a normal man mean? I admitted that the altercation with the police, what brought it on and so forth, it was a matter of immaturity in that particular instance on both of our parts. And they liked that. They said, yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. You were immature there. They just dismissed him. They said, well, you won't do that again and so forth, because I was immature, so you can't do those things. And I explained to them that I didn't know whether it might happen again or something similar to that, because in that particular instance, I didn't think I was wrong. I did call him a habitual liar, and so he called me a son of a bitch, and I called him a motherfucker. And then they added their little things, of course, that they added on to the report that I said that I would kill him, that I would break his head in, which is totally a fabrication. I never said that, even if I had wanted to do that.
But it is your position that he is an habitual liar.
Oh, yeah.
But that was
Oh,
proper
right.
assessment of the situation.
Right. I just told the truth.
Yeah.
So he had no right to call me a son of a bitch just because he's a habitual liar. You're dead. If the brothers can't straighten it, then it's all right. But the dying thing is not an important thing. I guess it's... I remember reading Cyrano de Bergerac, the play when he was off, and of course he was a very courageous swordsman, and when he got killed he said that He had a very hard life. He never got, because his nose was long and he didn't get things that he thought he deserved, love affairs and so forth. And when he got killed, he said that when he's dying, he said that this makes the perfect end. And my whole life I've never had anything I wanted, not even a decent death, because he'd much rather have died on the battlefield. So, but here I am killed by a lackey with a log, you know, a guy dropped a log on his head when he was standing under a balcony. And so he wasn't unhappy because he got killed, but a lackey killed him. You know what I mean?
What has this trial done to your party? What effect has it had on the party itself?
It's motivated the party. We're highly motivated against the legal lynching that's about to take place. As far as crushing the party, it's impossible to crush the party because the party is one with the people. And in order to crush the party, that genocide will have to be inflicted not only upon the people of this country, but the people of the world, because we struggle with all oppressed people. We struggle against the international bourgeoisie with its home here in North America. We realize that no oppressive government, no fascist government can exist unless the United States imperialistic government supports it. So we know that the final battle will occur here, and this will be the battle of liberation for the whole world.
You talk about community. How do you characterize your organization as a military group or as a political party?
We categorize the Black Panther Party as a vanguard here in North America, representing the oppressed people of America and of the world.
Is it a military group, though?
Pardon me?
Is it a military group as opposed to being a political party?
Is America a military state? Because, we're whatever we need to be at a particular time. In other words, we guarantee you that we'll act in an appropriate fashion, whether it's political or military. And the society itself will decide and dictate really our actions, because we'll respond to it.
Don't you invite further repression, though, which states at that time?
We say that in the first place that we're a colonized people, and even though we're colonized not in a classical sense, because we're a colony brought home to the mother country, but we're colonized nevertheless. So we would say that the first that we're enslaved, and we are not willing to bargain for one slave master against the other. And we are not begging the slave master to be a little more kind. The only thing he can do is stop being a slave master. Everything else is only sort of an absurd action. In other words, his kindness is not appreciated.
Huey,
if he ever displays any, which he doesn't.
Huey, would this military action be confined to the state of Connecticut, or would it be nationwide?
When the people decide to move, I'll guarantee you it will be international. The Black Panther Party is an international party. We have a coalition with all struggling people of the world. And we feel that we must be internationalists because we're fighting an international enemy.
How soon do you think the people are going to want to move? And
the people are already moving. The people are moving in Vietnam. The people are moving in Laos. The people are moving in Cambodia. The people are moving in Latin America, Brazil. The people are moving everywhere. We're just joining in. Matter of fact, we're latecomers.
International communism has as one of its tenets the fact that it will try to win over people in other countries. Are you allying the Black Panther Party with that type of movement? In fact, perhaps that movement?
We support all people who struggle for national independence and self-determination. Some of these countries are revolutionary nationalists, and others choose to be socialists. That's their business. We say that they must be free because we realize as the countryside of the world becomes free, and the Black Panther Party calls the developing countries of the world the countryside of the world, while the United States is the city of the world. And we realize that the United States thrives upon the raw materials of the countryside. As each country becomes free, that it chokes the city, because the city needs the raw materials, you see. So as the city is choked, then this increases our chances here as a colonized people to become free. So while we're not nationalists, we support national wars of independence. We know that once the imperialists is crushed, nationalism will not be necessary any longer.
Do you support the Viet Cong?
Pardon me?
Do you support the
Of
Viet
course,
Cong?
we support the Vietnamese people. Matter of
Cong.
fact, pardon me?
Viet Cong.
Oh, the Vietnamese people don't know what the word means, and they never use the word, so I don't know what it means.
Huey, in what country would you say the people are free? What is an example of that?
We're offering troops to the people who are engaged in armed struggle against the racist, reactionary American troops in Vietnam. We're now awaiting an answer. We've sent a formal declaration to the Provisional Revolutionary Government in the South. We've sent a declaration to the Paris Peace Talks, one to the National Liberation Front. And we're now waiting for a reply. We also sent a copy to our embassy in Algiers. Celebrate with us because we've been recognized now as the official liberation revolutionary group in North America. We have an embassy in Algiers, and now we're ready to launch a new international, which will be called the New World Liberation Front.
Why do you hold a press conference in an East Side penthouse?
Pardon me?
Why do you hold press conferences in penthouses? Aren't they kind of diametrically opposed to what you're talking about?
No, because we thought we would come where you fellows live. You see?
Huey, are you blaming the Nixon administration or Mr. Hoover's office for the situation that the Panthers are in now?
I'm blaming the first and foremost the 76 companies who control Nixon. These are the monopolies or the oligarchy that controls not only the people in this country, but also who runs the empire. Because remember, this is not a nation. It has no right to claim nationalism. It's an international country. Only the international bourgeoisie is in control. We want to transform this into an international socialistic government where the people will be in control. And then when America plans its economy, it will have to plan for the people of the world also, because America are part of that confederation of international thieves. It's ripped off the world, now it wants to claim nationalism or isolation. America can never claim isolation again. All it can do is when it plans its new economy, its socialist economy, it will have to take under consideration Africa, Asia, Latin America, because these are the people that it robbed in order to develop this technological empire that now exists.
The question comes up again and again. First, why are the Panthers so provocative in their rhetoric? Why would they even talk about opposing the greatest military power in the world? Don't they know that it's impossible for them to change anything unless they make themselves acceptable to the social order? These are the questions that people ask, and there are reports. I read a report that came out of University of California on suicide again, and they said that suicide rate among blacks are skyrocketing, and the Panthers symbolic of this suicide. But they don't know the difference between reactionary and revolutionary suicide, because we're trying to change, and we're saying that if we cannot change, then we'll die in the process. It's the same thing of Chase when he talks about victory. Death is the reality, and victory is a dream. So it's the same principle that all revolutionaries operate on, that we know that we're candidates for death, but we also know that we're the existential man and we're the free man, because we can choose between escaping to freedom or to death, or rather than to wallow in the misery, you see. So we're going to do something, and I'm saying that we have few alternatives. I was with the party for 1 year. The party was founded October '66, and I was incarcerated October 67. During that time that there's been a transformation in the party as far as the psychology of the party. A new reality has been created, and created through struggle. And that's what we call revolutionary culture, that a new culture is created through the struggle against oppression. And this culture is a process of change at any given moment. And this is the only culture we say is worth holding on to, because it exemplifies life, it's dynamic. Most people mistake culture for custom, a thing that's more stagnant, a thing that's less involved with life. It's more like a fad or a habit or lengthy fashion or fashion or fad that's hung around for some time, and then we call it culture. But when the revolutionary speaks of culture, we speak of a process of change where we adapt our behavior to the necessary situation in which to survive, and not only survive, but to survive with freedom. And this is taking place in the party. I see it. A new man is being created, and the Vanguard Party is creating this man. We hope to transform the whole world, and we're sure that we'll be successful, because our fight is not just a national struggle. This must be pointed out, that our fight is not a national struggle because we're not nationalists. And many people misunderstand why we would take up arms and call for solidarity with the people of the world, such as the North Korean people, the Vietnamese people, the National Liberation Front, and the North Vietnamese, in China. Why would we ask for solidarity? Simply because American capital is now American imperialism, where this country not only controls us here at home, or its people here at home, controls the world, literally controls the world. And as each country becomes decolonized, shakes off the chains of colonialism, they rise and they seem to be adapting or embracing socialism. But because of technology, the world's a very small place now. And we notice the example in Cuba seems to be somewhat of a classical example now. The same thing happened in China, where the countryside was taken first by the people, still maestro, and it's choked the city. Havana was the last territory to be conquered with the massive strikes. But first, the city was choked by cutting off the resources. We know that capitalism relies upon the resources of the developing country of the world. As each one becomes free, it puts a chokehold upon capitalism, and this is why capitalism, U.S. imperialism, is making a last-ditch effort to break the people, but they won't be successful. So our fight is internal, but we realize world revolution is necessary for our freedom. Because as each country becomes free, it's like the Sierra Maestra becoming free, and then Havana becoming free. As the people of the world become free and put a chokehold upon America, which is the urban area of the world. The developing countries are the rural areas of the world, and America is the urban area. And it will be the last marched on, even though we will harass and make it impossible for America to have business as usual and have immunity in their oppression of the people of the world. And we'll attempt to divert their troops here at home so that they would, because we're for sure that they can't not fight every developing country in the world and also fight a revolutionary war here at home, because their resources are not that great, even though they're very, very wealthy and very strong. So ours is a world revolution, and we talk in international terms. And we realize that solidarity is so important, and that we will not become free until the people of the world are free. And that's why we call ourselves revolutionary socialists and internationalists instead of nationalists. That doesn't mean that we want to have a Chinese type of socialism or a Russian type of socialism, but we want to live with the people of the world and share with the people of the world, but we realize that we have to adapt Marx-Leninism to our particular situation here in America. I think that Kim Il-sung of North Korea expresses this philosophy probably better than anyone else, and that is freedom for each nation to interpret Marx and Leninism according to its own needs. And as he puts it, the chief thing is to fight against U.S. imperialism, world enemy number one. And later on, after we win, we could argue the academic things about who is interpreting Marx and Leninism in the truest form. We think that's rather an academic conversation. Later on, it will be relevant, but first we have to get the boot off our neck, and we can only do that through solidarity with all the various interpretations. That's the Russian interpretation, Chinese interpretation, the Korean interpretation, and the Cuban interpretation. We struggle and support all of those countries, and we want solidarity with them. I'll tell you a Cornish story. I don't like to tell the story. I wish I had another story. I saw it as a kid. This it left an impression on me for some reason. There was a cowboy picture, and it was called Billy the Doggone Bangtree. Billy the Doggone Bangtree was a gunfighter, a youngster, and he got shot up in a saloon, a gunfight, and then from that point on, his girlfriend was trying to find death, so she's asking him to spare Billy the Doggone Bangtree. And so she went riding out looking for death. And then there's a flash to, death, and he's all dressed in black and everything. And he hears about Billy the Doggone Bangtree is about ready, So he starts riding down. So then from that point on, the film picks up on death and what death is about. What does he do with his time, and it shows him making his rounds and so forth. And then Billy the Doggone Bangtree girlfriend finally sees death and talks to him and begs him to spare Billy the Doggone Bangtree. And he says, well, maybe he doesn't know. I don't know who put the question to him, either his mother or this girl, Death's mother or this girl. He lived with his mother. But they asked him, I think the girl asked him, what did he do when he wasn't picking people up, you see? And Death told her that he went around and looked in people's windows and watched them around the fireplace with their family and their children. And that's how he spent all of his time. And because this was life, and Death felt he got some sort of experience of closeness and warmth by just watching this family relationship, vicarious experience. And I think that Eldridge gets the same thing out of wanting these people around, a vicarious experience of being intimate, of a common sharing of things. Well, that's a corny story. I don't know why that story's always stuck in my mind. Every man desires and deserves some basic things like family and shelter and so forth. After you become conscious, you know that you can only have a family, you know that you can only have a house under certain conditions, and these conditions are stipulated by the reactionary ruling class again. If I have a house, I must pay about triple for it. If the house is worth $12,000, I have to pay $50,000 for it, so that someone can make a profit off of it, you see. If I have children, I know that when they're first born, when they first become conscious, they'll be affected in some way by the very racist society. They'll probably suffer in a material way. They won't be fed the proper foods and so forth. The only way they will be fed and cared for properly if I'm a traitor to the people. And I say a traitor to the people because then they will get what they need if I take a seat with the established order, which they offer. But then I'm corrupted because if I take a seat in some of the professions, I can only operate in that profession if I follow the stipulations by the ruling class again. Where I can't have a family, I can't have a wife, I can't have, a house, I can't have what people, what every man deserves. So then this is the professional revolutionary, because then he's alone. Because even though he strives to gain all of those basic things for the people, he cannot have them until the new world is created. So what motivates him, his goal is to destroy those conditions that stripped him and stripped the people. What sustains him is the love again of his comrades and the people. Because without this, then he would probably commit reactionary suicide. So his goal is the total destruction so that he can live in the new world with these things that every man deserves. But as far as those basic things, I cannot have them. I reject them because it's still tainted with that, with what the established order has ordered, you see. And I can't accept that. So it leaves me without an identity in many ways. And that's what many reporters find it hard to get through to me, because they keep asking me, well, what about you? And for a long time I couldn't answer why I couldn't talk about my individual self. But really it's all tied up now in the struggle, you see. In Bolivia, there are Indians there who, generation after generation, they spent their lives carrying lime for a living, lime sacks, about 100 pounds for about 20 miles. And so a few years ago, a priest went in there and tried to help them raise some money so they can get some trucks to do it. And the company started to drive the trucks off the road because they didn't want the Indians first to get a truck, then they organize, maybe they get a union, you see. And so the Indians were very upset. Most of them are devout Catholics. And they asked the priest, would they go to hell if they defended themselves by, if necessary, killing the guys who were trying to drive the trucks off the road because they were wrecking the trucks. And the priest told them no, they wouldn't go to hell for this because they had a right to defend themselves. When I read this not too long ago, but suddenly I felt very alone. It was a feeling that I wish that I could want a truck, you see, because that truck meant something to the Indian and his comrades. It meant that he can get more food for his family. Now, even though he gets a truck, he's still going to be exploited, you see, that he's still manipulated by that company. But he can want a truck. And he can want a truck because it means food for his family, so it's a possession, it's part of his soul, and he deserves that. But for myself, now I can't want the truck. Matter of fact, not only the truck, I can't want like in the South, there's shrimp boats that some blacks are organizing, are collecting. But they can want that as a group, so they become a bigger person, you see. The onion skin thing again, that's a part of them. But because of the consciousness, it puts the professional revolutionary in a sort of a twilight zone. That even though he would die trying to get the truck for the Indian in Bolivia or the shrimp boat for the black in the South that the people around in the races don't want him to have, but he can't want it. He can't want it because that's still accepting the stipulation, that he's going to be exploited there. But then that makes you outside of the comradeship of the ordinary people, of the people. So you can't be a comrade to the bourgeoisie, and neither can you be a part of the people. You can sympathize, but you can't really share like they share. And that's why we say that the people are the only ones who can really know joy and can really possess things. The younger Panthers most of them haven't stopped wanting things. Then they had, but now perhaps so. But then they hadn't stopped wanting things. You could question them, they would tell you things they would like to do, and they would be quite unrelated to destroying the oppressor, you see. It was just things, just ambitions, you see. But once you strip all of this ambition from the man becomes dangerous. I read in the paper some years ago, they asked this black, he wasn't a revolutionary, he was a gang member. They were just getting the poverty program together. They said, well, if we give you a job, pay you $1.65 an hour, And he said, no, I don't want a job. I want to try the white man's job. And it's the same thing where to him it was too late, you see, that you couldn't offer him anything any longer. But those younger Panthers hadn't reached that point yet. How I arrived at this, that when I realized that there was nothing that I really wanted, that I don't want anything, and I reflected on those experiences with those younger brothers who were ambitious and not a way where, not a greedy way, but a way where they expect to marry, to have kids, and a house sometime. Just the feeling that they could possess these things brought a certain amount of happiness, and they could laugh together, dance together, and really enjoy things. But once you reach a certain point where your identity is crushed, that you don't even have this fraternity any longer. Not in a real way. You only have it in an abstract way. I have to talk about the reactionary regime and their soldiers in relationship to the guerrilla to make you understand the difference. In the reactionary regime, the soldiers are mercenaries, really, and they sort of measure their chances between getting maimed or killed in relationship to their chances of getting back to the office to pick up their paycheck. And because they're primarily to get the money to feed their kids and so forth. Where the guerrilla is certainly not there for the money because he's not paid, and his life is only important in relationship to changing the condition that he's suffering under. And therefore he's prepared and changing the condition not only for himself but for the coming generation, his children, and leaving the correct image. So he's prepared to hurl his life at the Gestapo with contempt, and hurling his body at the Gestapo with contempt, which would be his life, which would be death for the Gestapo, and certainly most of the time his death also. But he's willing to do this, and the only thing that comes into mind is how effective he can be, either in his strategy or in ending his life. If ending his life is necessary for the goal, then he would do just this. And if he finds, if he has a written guarantee that he can't win, he will still do the same thing. In other words, if he can't make the change, then he doesn't want to live anyway. And this makes him stronger than the oppressor's technology. His will, his spirit is stronger. And if he can't win, then his children will win, or his children's children will win, because we would have laid down the pattern. So we're very optimistic, really, that we will win, because we have sort of an extended life experience. Our soul field, our psychological field, goes further than just our existence. It goes to the promise of a free generation and a free world. Dr. Hendon, psychiatrist in New York, he found out just in the last 15 years, black suicide has superseded white suicide. Matter of fact, between the ages of 20 and 35, it's double the white suicide rate. And I claim that this is because of a reactionary set of conditions again. And of course, this is reactionary suicide because the person is not free, he's driven to take his own life. And even the black crime, black against black, is suicide as far as I'm concerned, because he sees your looking glass and the black's destroying himself by destroying his brother. So this is the category of reactionary suicide. But we do have a choice, you see. The social forces are so overwhelmingly against us until it's like a squadron of B-52s or tanks bearing down on you. And if you just stand there, even though there's no place to go, if you just stand there and you run down, then this is suicide because you didn't try to do anything about it. But I say that it's incumbent upon you to maintain your dignity, to at least spit at the tanks as they come, you see. There's a possibility that maybe we can do something to avoid this. If not, we'll still maintain our freedom, because just the act itself is a freedom to try to destroy that thing which provokes you, which is the simplest, surrealist act. Another interesting thing that Dr. Hendon pointed out, that most white suicide, the highest percentage is caused by loss of some material thing, social status, or loss of money, or some social position, failure to achieve a certain job or position in a job. And for black suicide, it seems that the overwhelming percentage of causes, just reoccurring, almost 90%, 80% of the causes is the loss of, he says, a loss of a lover. But I generalize this for my purposes, and I think it's a fair generalization to say that black suicide is because of a lack of love. And I say that because what has happened, the blacks have no profession, they have no hope to achieve a social position or material thing. And as you deprive a person of, say, social position, some material thing, or the personality is made up of things that you hope to be, your aspiration, your goals, and so forth, and your profession, all of these things, is like the layer or the skin on the onion. And as you strip these things away, you strip the person away, you see. So after a while, that there's nothing left. So this is how that the established order, the regime, has crushed blacks as people of the world in general, and to a lesser degree, poor white America. So what's left then is just the man has almost lost completely his identity, you see. So when you take the lover away, then he's no more. But I'm saying that, so when he's crushed, he's almost crushed. This is not only the killing, but it's also the redemption. Because in the new world, the world that the party, the world that we hope to see, the most important thing, the only important thing, will be the love that we have for each other, that man has for each other. So it's sort of ironical that the way that we've been stripped until the most important thing we have is each other, communal living and so forth, and how that we relate to each other. If we lose that, then we lose everything. But after all, in the new world, that the most important thing will not be a social status or a material possession, but it will be the love and harmony between men, you see.